Hey guys, before the video starts, just want to say a massive shout out to Black Panther aka Theo, who actually dropped a very similar video to this yesterday. Now as you can see from the on-screen screenshot, that is a screenshot of the notepad section in my phone. As you can see, I was actually putting this video together since last Friday. Unfortunately, due to my busy work schedule, I've only been able to upload it today. Just in case any of you think it's a copycat video, which it definitely isn't. Anyway, in the meantime, hope you enjoyed his video, hope you enjoy mine as well. They are actually quite different and come at this from slightly different angles. I'm going to stop talking, sit back and enjoy. So the dust has settled after E3, the announcements have been made, and just about every single YouTuber and his dog have all released videos covering various aspects and sharing their opinions on the new racing based offerings. Ghost Games and Ivory Tower have both given us huge slices of what to expect from their respective new titles. So what I want to do in this video is not discuss which is better, but more importantly, which of the two has made the biggest level of improvement from its predecessor, which title has leaped forward the furthest. Now, for the sake of time, I've decided to limit both titles to 6 improved areas each, and by the end, you guys can let me know which brand has made the biggest step forward. Starting things off with Need for Speed Payback. Need for Speed 2015 is a game that still divides opinion till this day. While it was definitely a solid game all round in comparison to games like Most Wanted 2012 and Rivals, the community felt it still fell short in certain areas, such as the storyline, cops, no daylight within the game, no offline play, and limited garage space. So watching the trailer back straight away, we can see, and I think we can all agree, that this year's story, and even in the title Payback, does seem to be something of a more mature nature. It seems more grittier, it seems like it's got a lot more substance than what we saw in relation to the fist pumping and endless amounts of energy drinks on show in Need for Speed 2015. Now, is this cliche? Yes. Has it been seen before? Of course it has. Does that make this a bad thing? Absolutely not. No, it doesn't. Especially if the idea is executed correctly. Now obviously we know there's 3 different playable characters upon which we're going to get to control each one at various different moments in time, but what I'm most impressed with is that it seems to follow a sort of Fast and Furious vibe, a sort of on the edge of your seat type action, almost as if it was co-written with Michael Bay. The countless explosions, the robbing of the car from the truck, the whole emphasis on trying to get revenge on somebody who's done you wrong. I think this is where Need for Speed shines, and I think this is the type of storyline that ties in so nicely to underground car culture. Now those of you that are subscribed to my channel will know a few months ago I actually put out a project called the Let's Build series for 2017, and in that very series I actually said the following: why can't I have missions where me and 3 of my friends work together for a gangster kingpin, where we have to hijack a lorry with all 4 of us using modified all black Mitsubishi Evos and surrounding it in formation before beating the dog shit out of the driver. And funnily enough, lo and behold, in the trailer we saw this. I got my hijacking scene, I got my crazy looking all black cars in stealth, albeit this time they seem to be the cops and not Mitsubishi Lancers, which I wanted us to control, but it doesn't matter. The fact is that I feel they've kind of hit the nail on the head in this respect, in terms of bringing a storyline that I think we'll all enjoy a hell of a lot better than what we saw in 2015. Right, moving on. Point number 2, cops. They look bigger, they look badder, they look more aggressive. 2015's main problem was people felt that the cops were just, well, quite timid, quite lame, and kind of pussyfooted around quite a lot. Obviously those of us that played the original Most Wanted, not 2012, the original Most Wanted, will fully understand just how dangerous, just how aggressive, just how frustrating and pleasantly irritating the cops can be to get away from, and it feels like 2015 kind of lost that feeling. In Payback, what I'm most impressed about is it looks as if we've got different types of cops attacking us. We've obviously got the big hefty X6 BMWs after us, but it seems like we're being attacked from the air as well. Now there is one scene in the coin exec where the girl's actually spinning around and she's actually having a sort of face off, and you can see all the cops in front of her. Now I don't know if that's just a cinematic scene or whether or not that's some sort of tactic deployed by the cops or whatever. I would really love it if it was a tactic that was deployed, but nevertheless, it seems as if there's not only better variation in the types of cops, but they do seem to attack you more aggressively, which obviously all aids into that pulsating adrenaline rush which you're looking for in games like this. Now, there are a lot of us who are massive long-time lovers of the Burnout series, and there's a lot of people that consistently call for the Burnout series to make a return year after year after year. While I'm not for 1 second suggesting that this is a replacement for Burnout, I do like the takedowns that we've got. The takedowns whereby you obviously got to take out the cops and they start flipping all over the place, that kind of is reminiscent and the hallmarks of a Burnout title, and so I like the fact that they've kind of implemented that into the game. So all in all, I think we're going to be okay for cops. Daylight! Oh yes, this was probably my personal biggest bugbearer in Need for Speed 2015. As I've said many times already, as a lot of you know, I actually started off making raps. That's how I started doing this channel. I started doing raps and vinyls and all sorts of, you know, crazy designs for cars in Need for Speed 2015. And it would take me hours upon hours to put them together, only to be pissed off, irritated and thoroughly frustrated to drive out into the open world and see nothing but pitch blackness, darkness rather. It was irritating. So I'm so happy that, you know, they've actually listened to us this time round and we've got fully fledged daylight. Now, I don't know at this stage whether or not it's a day and night cycle. I don't know whether or not it's a thing whereby we've got daylight and it fades to dusk and then into night. But the fact that we have got daylight to admire those beautifully rendered car models is something that I'm very happy about, and I'm pretty certain that most of you guys are happy about that as well. So thank you very much for that. Now, when it comes to garage space, Ghost obviously irritated quite a lot of people because with the initial release of 2015, they had this whole idea that they wanted us to fall in love and romance with our cars and build some sort of, you know, relationship of sorts with them. And their way of doing that, they said, was by limiting the garage space, so that you think carefully about what type of cars that you buy. That didn't go down well with anybody, to be quite honest. And as a result, they obviously upgraded the garage to be able to hold, I believe it was 10 cars if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong on that. For some people, this still wasn't enough. So the fact that they announced during E3 that car space will be unlimited is obviously something that once again is an improvement. It's something that will tick a box. It's something that will leave a lot of people with smile on their faces and jizz running down the side of their left leg. Offline playability. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Now, to be quite honest with you, I lost count the amount of times when I was dying, absolutely dying to go to the toilet or go and open the door for the pizza man or some other type of tomfoolery, which unfortunately I wasn't able to carry out due to the fact that you just couldn't pause the game. Not only that, but obviously when the game was being shut down for maintenance during quote unquote less busier hours, it meant that effectively if you wanted to sneak a game in at 2 o'clock in the morning or maybe 11 o'clock in the morning on a day when you haven't got uni, school or college, you just weren't able to, which infuriated many people. And also those of us that don't always have internet connections, or those of us that travel with their PlayStations or Xboxes or whatever it is you may be playing on, again, if you went into a hotel or an area where you never had any internet or Wi-Fi, then you're screwed, you couldn't play your game. So the fact that they've obviously addressed this situation once again is an improvement of sorts. So brilliant, thank you. Now, the final improvement number 6, is something that wasn't actually massively talked about in the community. By community, I'm talking about the Need for Speed Facebook communities, the Google Plus communities, etc. I'm actually in all of them, and I keep a close eye on things that people complain about. But what they've actually done is they've improved the open world access and off-roading ability. Now, this is really, really, really important. You see, Need for Speed always prides itself on being an open world racer. That's what it calls itself. 2015 was essentially an open world racer, except it wasn't. It wasn't. What Need for Speed 2015 did was it enabled you to have open world access in free roam around a road-based surface. You couldn't go off-road, and there were certain invisible walls that you couldn't actually get through. So it wasn't actually what you would consider as open world. If you want to see what open world really is, you need to play the crew. Need for Speed Payback addresses this issue. Not only can you actually drive your car off-road in free roam, so you can literally just drive off the freeway into a dusty avenue of some sort or into a forest, but you've actually got off-road events. This changes the whole dynamic upon how the game is played. it opens up a whole new class of vehicle, and it opens up more opportunities for me to make videos, of course. But this is what I personally feel is arguably the biggest improvement they've made so far, because essentially what you want is longevity and replayability. And the more of the map you can explore, the more likely you are to have people playing your game more often. So yeah, that rounds that off. So let's talk about the crew. Where do I start? It started off as a huge idea, an arcade street racer with MMORPG elements, the biggest map seen across any racing game, and a gripping storyline that can be played alone or cooperatively with friends. To say Ivory Tower's ambitions were high is an understatement. However, on initial release, it had issues. These covered various areas such as the graphics within the open world, the fact that most of the cars were just mainly American, the actual car handling itself, the all-round game physics, PvP matchmaking, and my personal one that I've thrown in for good measure, the fact that I couldn't sell any of my bloody cars. I hated that. So let's take a look and focus on the improvements that the Crew 2's bringing, starting off with the open world graphics. Now, looking at the trailer, the first thing that struck me was just how beautiful the world looked this time. It looked absolutely stunning. They vastly improved the dynamic lighting. There's better reflections off the buildings, fantastically beautiful sun rays. What I also noticed was that there was improvement on the actual shadow qualities. So the actual cars themselves, the shadows look darker, they look stronger, they look more prominent. Even right down to the puddles of water on the floor, they just looked real. I think this bodes well, because if this is how the game is going to come out of the box, if this is how it's going to come out on day one, knowing Ivory Tower, knowing the fact that they always like to improve their games over time, we could be in for a treat. We really could be. Now, it's unclear as to what console that was playing on. I don't know if it was playing on the Xbox One X. I don't know if it was recorded on a PS4, but regardless, it looks brilliant. The future looks beautiful. Vehicle types. During the actual trailer, I noticed a few things. Obviously, we know there's going to be cars. We know there's going to be boats. We know there's going to be bikes and planes. I don't really want to discuss that because that's obvious. It's a great thing and it's a fantastic improvement. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is the fact that I saw two iconic brands within the game. The main car that was being thrashed around the street was obviously a Porsche. There were 2 or 3 other cars in that race, one of which was an Audi TT. Now, those are 2 brands that were not in the first version of the Crew. They weren't in the Crew 1. Obviously, in the Crew 1, you had RUF, or RUF, as some people like to pronounce them, which is a company that uses Porsche chassis and whatnot, but it's not the actual Porsche company. The reason why this is prominent and this is impressive is because the Audi and the Porsche brands are 2 of the hardest brands to secure for most racing games. It's not easy to get those brands to come on board with your idea. That's why you don't see many Audis in many different games, obviously Forza being the exception. As I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest issues was that though there were quite a lot of cars in the Crew 1, there seemed to be a massive bias towards the amount of American cars. Don't get me wrong, I love American cars, I think they're brilliant, I really, really do. But at the end of the day, you need to have the right balance, you need to balance these things out. I'm hoping that there's going to be more additions. What I'm really hoping for is to see them take interest in Japan, in JDM. I want to see Honda in the game. I want to see Toyota in the game. I've got this down as an improvement because Porsche and Audi being in the game is a fact and it's a step forward, and it hopefully is the gateway to bringing more car manufacturers on board just to give us a better game overall. Now, just to regress and touch back on the whole boats, bikes and planes thing, I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the game, I was bloody annoyed. I was pissed off. I just thought to myself, what are they doing? What are you doing? I don't want to be in the air. I've got a fear of flying, and I don't like water because I can't swim. So what you trying to do to me here, people? I didn't like it. But then I started to watch more and more footage, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks bloody intriguing. It really, really, really does. I can pretty much see myself having a lot of fun in some of the water-based races and some of the power boats. So, yep, definitely looking forward to that. Right, moving on, let's talk about handling. Now, the Crew 1, I'm going to be honest, because I have to be honest. The handling was strange. it was shit. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. It was shit, and I use the word was because it got better. It did get better, but initially when the game first came out, the first thing that I noticed, the first thing that irritated me was that the cars just felt too slippy. They felt too slidey. It was almost as if you could like power slide around corners just by gently flicking the joystick, which I didn't really like. It almost felt as if you didn't have the control over the car that you would have wanted. Obviously, it's an arcade racer, an action racer, whatever you want to call it. It's not a simulation. I'm not looking for it to be a simulation. But my main biggest issue was that I just didn't feel there was enough grip. The cars felt too floaty. That did get better with updates. It definitely did. They improved it. So I'm happy about that. However, in the trailer, whilst watching that Porsche going around the corners, I noticed that it didn't hit anything. It didn't power slide, it didn't oversteer. The player didn't have to use lift-off corrections on the throttle. It just seemed to be planted to the road, and I breathed a huge sigh of relief. I really did. Now, obviously, I have seen footage from Slaptrain, because he's actually got footage whereby he's played the game, and the cars were sliding quite a bit there. But even still, it didn't look anything half as bad like it did in the first version of the Crew. So the improvement in handling looks like it's there for all to see, so that's great. Now with the career mode, the Crew seem to have gone the opposite way. Obviously, first and foremost, in the Crew 1 they had a really gritty storyline and whatnot, which, you know, I don't need to go into what it was or what it was about, but I think those of us that played the game know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a good storyline by all accounts. I liked it, definitely. Again, it was cliche, seeking out revenge, but it was good and it was solid. What they've decided to do now is have an actual sort of motoring based career, whereby what you need to do is become like the king of all motorsport. Now it does look as if you get to take over some sort of character, but I don't know whether or not this character is predefined by the game or whether or not you've got any type of customization. My suspicion is that it's going to be a stock character. That's going to piss me off. I don't want a stock character. I want my own character. I want to design myself. I want myself in the game. Can my hands be black? Please, can my hands be black? No, but jokes aside though, it does look quite intriguing. I want to know whether or not it retains the co-op mode. What I can say is that looking at it, there does seem to be some replay value in it. Now my biggest fear was that they were going to force you into being a boat driver or force you into being a champion of the skies, and to be quite honest with you, I'm not going to want to do that. I'm going to play with the boats, I'm going to play with the planes and all that stuff there, but I don't want to do that in career mode. My career mode, I want to be strictly racing based. What I'm pleased about is that they've actually announced and said, courtesy of, I believe it was Black Panther, you do not have to touch those elements of the game. You don't have to. It's absolutely up to you. If you want to complete the whole career mode in a car, you can do that, which is great. Now what they've also done is they've obviously split it up into various different HQs. So you've got the freestyle HQ, you've got the track HQ, you've got street racing, and you've got another one of some sort. Sorry, I can't remember, I'm going off the top of my head right now. But I really like the fact that they're focusing on track racing. Now again, I know it's not a simulation, I'm not expecting it to be a simulation, but I love the fact that we had the Laguna Seca. I love the fact that we had the Indianapolis Raceway as well on the previous map. And if they're going to be bringing more tracks to the game, that's going to be something I'm going to be a massive fan of. Those of you who don't know, I've actually got a series called Head-to-Head Showdowns, whereby I pick two cars, put them up against each other, do power lap times to see which is the fastest. That is all done in the Crew. It's all done using the Laguna Seca Mazda Raceway track. So definitely looking forward to that. It'll be good to have some nice variation of street racing and track racing. Now, let's talk about the map. The actual map itself, it just looks taller, it looks larger than life, it looks huge. It feels like a city with depth. When you watch the shots of the planes up in the sky, various things to take into consideration. The planes are as high as the clouds. You're actually at cloud level and sometimes even above. The other thing is when you're doing that thing where you're actually dropping all the way down out of the sky and turning and obviously pressing the button to flip into a car, it takes a while for that plane to come all the way down. That's real depth and just adds to the overall realism and dynamic feel of the actual world itself. Also, to touch again on the different types of vehicles that we've got in the game, if you think about it logically, when you walk outside your house, you're confronted with cars on the street, planes in the sky, If you live near a tube station, you're going to have the trains going running through, and if you live near a river, obviously there's going to be boats flying past. All of those different elements happening at the exact same time make up the world upon which we live in, and that is what the crew have actually done in the second version of the game. You could actually be just driving along in your Nissan GTR whilst having planes flying up above you, other players just powering along the actual river on their speedboats, bumping up and down. Everything is going to be happening at the same time. The world is going to be so damn alive, it's going to be incredible, honestly. I know there's going to be trolls, there's going to be people that are going to try and recreate 9/11, I've seen it in the comments already. People are going to try and fly their bloody planes into your bloody Ford Focus. I can see that happening. Hopefully there'll be some sort of measures put in place to avoid these things, because I don't think my insurance company will have a bar of it. But the point is that I feel that in terms of open world racers, in terms of the actual world itself, this might be the most impressively living world as an actual organism that we've come across thus far. As a result, I'm expecting the game size to be bloody huge as well. And last but not least, what I want to talk about is the varying different track types. Now, the Crew 1 already had off-road. Off-road was already a thing in the Crew 1. It's nothing new. They've been there, they've done that. But what I'm really pleased about is by obviously bringing in these new types of vehicles, what you're also doing is opening up the possibility, both surface and air-based, for racing purposes, street racing, track racing, water racing, land, sky, you name it, it's all there. There's something for everyone, and I think that that is so crucial and so fundamental, and I'm really pleased they managed to do that. Honestly, it doesn't matter what you're into, you're gonna like an element of this game. There's nobody that's gonna sit here and say I don't like every single element of this game, because whatever you're into, there's something to cover all bases. So good on them for that. Thank you very much, Ivory Tower. Right, and yeah, that pretty much rounds things off, guys. So as I said, the whole purpose of this video wasn't to find out which game is better, it's to find out which game has made the bigger improvements. Based on everything I've said, what do you think? I think whatever your decision is, whatever you feel about this discussion, the one thing that you can say is you shouldn't be sitting there wondering, should I buy the Crew or should I buy Need for Speed Payback? Because if you look at it, these are two totally different games. They're not the same. They're totally different. They're so far apart, it's unbelievable. I don't think there has ever been two racing titles that are as far apart as the Crew and Need for Speed in what they bring to the table. And this is brilliant, because what this means is that they can coexist in the same world. You can have the Crew and you can have Need for Speed Payback and not feel like you've wasted your money on either one. So yeah, let me know in the comments. If it's your first time around here, I wish you a born welcome. Hit that subscribe button, show some support to the channel by hitting the like button as well. Be sure to check out the new series that I've got coming soon called the Auto BOURNE Magazine. Details of that will be coming at the end of this video, but in the meantime, take it easy. Peace. Do you like car reviews? Do you check out power tests? Are you a fan of head-to-head showdowns? How about having them all tied together in one convenient place? Welcome to the Auto BOURNE Magazine, your one-stop shop for all of the above, presented on a weekly basis with quality content, clean-cut commentary and cars to suit everyone's pocket. What happened when the 370Z went up against the original 240? Was the American muscle car misunderstood by the British? Should you buy the brilliantly stupid John Cooper Works Mini? All questions and more will be answered as part of the Auto BOURNE Magazine. Check it out now. The Need for Speed 2017 Let's Build project was a concept I put together a few months ago before EA and Ghost released the details of what we now know to be called Need for Speed Payback. So what exactly is it? Well, essentially it's a 6-part series in which I put together my thoughts and my ideas for what I thought would be a decent proposal for this year's entry into the franchise. Each episode has a different theme and they are as follows: the storyline, multiplayer and social integration, car list, map, customization and tuning. Now, at the time of me putting it together, the only information leaked was that EA had patent pending status on the game name Need for Speed Arena, hence me titling it as such, and also serves as the reason for some of my concept ideas as well as me utilising the name during commentary. Listen, if you can, go check it out, and please bear in mind it was not a prediction series, it was not a set of reveal videos, and it was put together a good few months before Payback was even announced. It was just a way of me presenting my own ideas for the game to you lovely petrol heads. Give it a watch. Now,